First, it is my pleasure to introduce today's keynote speaker, Ahmad Alhindawi of Jordan. He serves as the first ever United Nations Secretary General's Envoy on Youth since 2013. His previous work includes 2 positions at the League of Arab States, working on institutional development to strengthen Arab policy and participation, and prior to that as Youth Policy Advisor. His past experience also includes serving as a team leader for the National Youth Policy Project in Iraq and at the Youth Program Associate at the UNFPA office in Iraq, as well as an emergency program officer at the NGO Save the Children. Mr. Alhindawi is a strong youth advocate at a national, regional, and international level. He was among the co-founders of Youth for Democracy Network at the Jordanian Commission for Democratic Culture, which he headed. Internationally, he is a co-founder of the International Youth Council based here in New York. He holds a master's degree in advanced European and international relations, a diploma as a policy officer in European and international organizations from Institut Européen in Nice, and a bachelor's degree in computer information systems from the Al-Baqa Applied University in Jordan. Please join me in welcoming someone who every day is making a difference, our keynote speaker, Ahmad Alhindawi.
Hello, everybody. Hello. Welcome to the United Nations. As the Secretary General always, when he meets young people, welcome them by saying, this is your second home. So do you feel like home? Excellent. You should. Would like to start with a quiz and asking you, do you know when was the first presence for human beings on this planet? The first human being on this planet. When was that? How many years ago? 100,000. More. Anyone has an answer for this? Okay, I don't. There are so many theories for this. But let's consider 100,000 years. If you are a young person on this planet, just 100 years ago, you probably would lack something that we take it for granted today, which is universal values. We talk about democracy, human rights, human dignity, equality, justice for all, peace, international diplomacy. Fantastic. If you are on this planet 100 years ago, you would not be able to enjoy any of these terms in an international level. So, welcome again at the United Nations, because this building is not just a building, and this organization is just not another organization. It's a place where it stands for these ideals, a place where the humanity has evolved to the limit where we start sharing something called universal values. Do you know a document that I cannot disagree with even one single word in it is a document called the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. We should all be familiar with it, or we should carry it here, because it stands for human dignity and human rights. Well, usually I ask people why we call it United Nations. And the reason for that is very simple. Because it's mandated to unite nations based on these values. There are 3 pillars for the United Nations. One is human rights. The second is development. And the third is peace. These are the 3 pillars of the United Nations. Imagine them as a triangle, and the middle of this triangle is the rule of law. So the United Nations is working on a daily basis to promote these values. The UN is one of the places where 193 governments meet on a daily basis to discuss development issues and find ways to avoid conflicts and to promote a human rights and development for all. It's a huge task ahead of all of us. Now, you participated in National Model United Nations, and you came here to understand the United Nations. Do you feel you understand the UN now? Yes? That's great. You must. And you should now, after this intensive week, to have a better understanding about the UN. Now, I'll tell you why the UN, or Model United Nations, is extremely important Because first, it's a way to think global and a way to understand that we all have dual citizenships. We are the citizens of our countries, but we are also citizens of this globe. That's why the UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon always is stressing that we need an education system that teaches us how to become global citizens. Think about climate change. Is there one country alone can address this problem? We need collective efforts. We need global coordinated actions. And to do that, we need global citizens. So first, you are carrying this in your heart. Second, you will be able to work towards these issues in a way, more critical way now, because you understand how the UN works and what is the rule of this game. So in the future, if you want to influence issue, you will be able to know exactly to channel your energy, to do coalitions, and to lobby in the right place. So you will not waste your time blaming the wrong party, but rather to know exactly how to channel your energy in a way that is helpful to these issues. For me, the UN is also about development, because it's one of the 3 pillars of the United Nations. And when I think about development, I think always about the 2 P's, people and the planet. Any development efforts should make sure that this planet is more sustainable and the people of this planet are more empowered and have better access to everything. Now, the situation is not very bright. We have the march to development has still a long way to go, and we must work together to ensure equality, gender equality, and empowerment for all people around the world. Think about some of the challenges we have today. One, we take the Wi-Fi for granted, right? And believe it or not, 2/3 of the world population, they are still offline. When I think about poverty, do you like science fiction? I like social fiction. I like to think that by 2030 we will be able to take poverty to the museum. Extreme poverty should not exist in this planet. We have enough resources in this planet, and we can argue that we do have enough resources to eradicate poverty, at least extreme poverty. We don't have enough distribution, maybe. But we all know that we can eradicate extreme poverty. Can you just for a second imagine that we belong to a generation that can eradicate extreme poverty? And for your kids in the future, if they want to understand what extreme poverty is, they have to go to one of the museums to know it. I might sound too optimistic, but you know, it's as like one of the wise men once said, it's important, and it might be unrealistic to think that you can change the world. But it's a crime not to try to change this world as well. We should all work together to make sure empowerment is shared and prosperity is shared among this planet. So together we understand that there are plenty of challenges, but this time of history is very unique. Because in the history of this planet, we never had this many young people. Half of the 7.3 billion living in this planet under 25 years of age. That's why the Secretary General of the United Nations decided it's time not to work for young people only, but to work with young people. That's why the Secretary General invited me and instructed me to work in this position as his envoy in youth issues. It's most importantly, the whole United Nations system is coming together to do more for youth. So I urge you, when you go back to your countries, keep the UN in your heart and make sure that we all do something beyond what we should do normally, which is getting a degree and getting married and so on and so forth. You know, we can all do something bigger if we follow our passion. Usually when I meet young people and telling me about career advice, they tell me, okay, what do you advise us? What we can do next? And I'm sure you're all in a stage of life where you are wondering about what's next and the day after college. There are 2 types of young people. Type number 1 who think about the resume, the CV, how to write a nice CV. And you keep meeting them all the time and tell you, I should jump from this job to that job because it looks nice in the CV. And then I should do this because it looks nicer even in my CV. And at the end of the day, you might have a great CV, but a miserable life if you don't follow your passion. If you follow your passion, you might do some unrealistic choices at the short term, but you might contribute to a bigger cause in this world. It's not about changing the entire world, by the way. It's about changing something in this world to make it a better place. And I'm a person who believes that nobody can do everything, but everybody can do something. And this something should be beyond your only narrow interest, and you should think of the community. So if we are empowered enough to make it here and to come to New York to be part of this great group, let's take this moment to think about our fellow youth around the world. Young women and girls who are still struggling to access their basic rights and services. It's time not to fail this generation and to make sure that we are responding and we're investing in this generation. We don't have any better assets in this world than with the 1.8 billion young person who are living this planet. Africa could be a better Africa, and Latin America could be a better continent, and the world will be a better place for all of us if we work with young people. So again, you are here to carry this mandate with you. The UN, Modern United Nations, usually is about another two Ps, procedures and principles. You enjoy the procedure, how to take the floor, how to debate and do all that. But remember the principles of the United Nations, the values of the United Nations. Carry it in your heart. Make sure you promote it in your place, in your city, your organization. You can count on us, and we would like to count on you as well to walk the long march toward development and equality for all. I would like to thank you very much for coming here, for your commitment to the United Nations. We are so proud of all of you, and I hope you will always remember this experience, and this experience as it inspired the Secretary General of the United Nations when he was once a student in the Model United Nations, to inspire you as well. Maybe not to become the Secretary General of the United Nations, but to become working with the United Nations as advocates, ambassadors, and also people who can translate these ideas in anything you do in your life. It's a great pleasure to have you here. I thank you very much.